Okay, so that said, let me go ahead and just jump into the content. So what we're talking about here today is data inbox, and the problem that we're trying to solve for farmers is the problem of all my data in one place. It's impossible to analyze data and really learn anything about what has happened on your farm and what those drivers of yield and profitability were if all your data lives in different systems and they don't talk to each other. Climate FieldView is the one platform that allows you to very easily bring all your data together in one place. So here you have information about every pass that has happened across your farm and every variable that might be affecting yield. And once all that data is in one place, then data analysis can happen on top of that. I do other webinars that cover how you can analyze the data. This one in particular will limit us, we're going to be limited to the how do I get all my data into the platform so that then I am set up to do analysis. That's the only topic we'll cover for today, but there are certainly other webinars you can join on how to use the data analysis tools. Now, before I go ahead and I show you how to import data using the data inbox, what I want to show you is what the end result is and why do I want to have all my data in one place. So let me go, and I'm going to share my iPad here. I hope if I can do this right. There we go. I think everyone is probably seeing my iPad now. And if you are, what you can see is my Climate FieldView app. So I am in Climate FieldView. It's one that we sometimes refer to as the black app. If I back out of this, you can see it's at the bottom of my screen. It's a black background with a white climate word and an orange F in it. That's the app that I'm looking at now. I'm looking at it on my iPad. It works on an iPad and any iPhone, on any Android phone. So those are the three platforms in which you can view this system. Now, I'm going to go over in this app, and I'm going to click on Fields on the bottom of the page, and I'm going to click over to one of my fields by the name of Landlord here, and I'm going to split the screen here so I can see a couple of variables at one time, and I am in a hotel in Oklahoma City, and I hope the internet connection is strong enough for this to work pretty quickly. But what I wanted to show you is just what you can see when you have all your data in one place and the kind of things that it can help you do. And so in this particular case, if I click on the 2018 dropdown, I can see that I have data for 2017 soybeans, 2016 corn, 2015 corn, 2014 soybeans, 13 corn, 12 corn. I've imported a lot of old data to this account so that I now have with me on my person, on my phone, on my iPad, whatever device I have with me, I have all the planting and harvest and maybe even as applied data or soils data for, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 6 years, always with me on my phone, so that if I need to have a conversation with my agronomist, with my brother-in-law, with my seed salesman, whoever it is that I work with on the farm, we all have real-time live access to pretty much everything we've done on the farm for, it could be the last decade, it could be the last 20 years. It really just depends on how much data you have available in electronic format somewhere on your farm that you could import to the system. Because you can now put it all here extremely easily and then have access to it wherever you go. So for example, if I look at my 2016 maps, I can just easily pull up things like, what did I plant in this field in 2016? Oh, I split the planter that year, and I had half of the seed treated with quick roots and the other half not treated with quick roots. What did the yield look like that year? Well, let's pull up the yield map for that year. Okay, I had good yields on the eastern side of the field, poor yields down in the southwest side of the field. That's what my yield map looked like. Did I do variable rate planting that year? Well, let's look at the planting map and look at my population map. No, I flat rated it that year. Okay, so I can see that information. What did I put in the field in 2015? Well, let's look at my hybrid map. Oh, that was the year that I put a yield trial in the field, a hybrid trial, and so I had those scripts there, and I can see how that worked out from a yield perspective. Or, what if I want to see my latest soil tests? Where are the good and the bad parts of this field? Well, let's go ahead and click over and look at our soil test data. And here's my most recent pH map for my gridded soil samples. Here's my organic matter map. Here's my CEC map. Here's my P map, and here's my K map. With this system, you can very easily get all your data in one place so that every person in your operation, as they are out in the field, has these maps available to them to give them context for what it is they're seeing as they are out walking that field. Why am I seeing this particular change in the crop in this part of the field? Well, maybe it's where I change varieties. Maybe it's where I change populations. Maybe it's where I see a significant change in organic matter in the field. Everyone now has real-time access to those maps so that they can pull them up as they're walking across the field and really understand what it is they're seeing and be able to make better decisions on the farm. So that said, I'm going to go back and switch to my slides. I just wanted to show you a little bit about what the end result is and why we want to use data inbox. But let's go ahead and close that out. And I'm going to go back to my slides. And again, any questions, please just go ahead and chat them into the interface on the right-hand side of the screen, and I'll get to those as we go. So what we're going to talk about today is getting data into Climate FieldView, and there are a couple of different ways we can do it. We can do it through live as we are in the field using a system we call Climate FieldView Drive. So this 2018 season, when we start planting and spraying and doing tillage and harvesting and doing fertility and all those things, we can just collect the data live as we're passing through the field. It's a really simple little tool that you plug into the CAN diagnostic port of whatever implement you're driving across the field, and you just do what you always did. You just do what you always have done. You plant, you spray, you do tillage, you harvest, whatever the activity is you're doing, and all the data just automatically moves directly into the Climate FieldView system if you have a compatible piece of equipment that you're driving across the field. So Climate FieldView Drive is fantastic, and I'll be doing a bunch of webinars on how to use that here in the month of February to help everyone as they are getting ready for planting. So look for one of those. But today what we're talking about is getting historical data into the system, data that it was from 2017, 16, 2010, however long ago you have data available. We can move that data into the system in one of two ways. We can either move it via a thumb drive or you know, by exporting it from an existing software system and uploading it into Climate, or we can move it automatically through at least one of our API partners through My John Deere. I'm going to show you how both of those work. Now, what can we import? Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger so you folks can see it. So what can we import from Data Inbox? Well, we're always expanding our capabilities. We're always trying to make sure that we can handle data from more and more systems. But as of today, this table kind of provides the information about what we can and can't do. So we can move as planted, as harvested, and boundary files from a lot of different systems. Most John Deere systems, most Case systems, most Ag Leader systems, most New Holland systems. The Trimble stuff is coming. I don't think it's quite ready yet, but if you have data in a CFX 750 or an FMX 1000, we will be able to move that data soon. We can move it from a 2020 precision planting system. We can move it from Kinsey Vision. And these AGCO and Stara, I think Stara is mostly a Brazilian brand, but those are also coming here shortly. So we can get data out of all those systems in terms of as planted, as harvested, and boundaries. The thing that's coming for most of them that isn't quite ready yet is the as applied layers. So if you have different spray maps, different sorts of fertility maps potentially, those are not able to be imported via Data Inbox quite yet, but those should be available soon. Just don't have a firm date on it quite yet. But that's what we can and can't do at the moment from a moving data out of a monitor and into Climate FieldView Drive, or into Climate FieldView. So if you have a whole cup full of thumb drives somewhere in your office that have come out of any of these monitors over the last 20 years, we should be able to move all that data in using Data Inbox very easily. Now, from an FMIS system perspective, you know, which of these farm management information systems can we move data out of? Well, this again lists what we can do. We can move data out of Apex, My John Deere, SMS and Agfinity, SST, MapShots, the Case system, FarmWorks, and Trimble are coming. So if you have data in those sorts of systems, again, this table tells us whether you will be able to move it out. These are kind of the most common farm management information systems in the market here in North America, at least. And so if you have data in one of those, moving it out of that system into Climate, again, is going to be quite easy. Now, I have one additional slide here that I'm actually asking for a little bit of help from folks on the phone. We are looking to support importing of gridded soil samples from more systems. So there are a lot of systems out there, and today I think we do MapShots and we do SMS and SST. But if you have soil data in Echelon, EFC, E4, Expanded Map Shots, Ingram Soil Center, Soil Test Probe, Ag PhD, or Ag Advanced, we haven't fully completed testing of moving gridded soil samples out of those systems and into climate. And what we actually need is more sample data. So if you have gridded soil sample data in one of those systems that you would like to import to climate, what I'd like you to do is get in touch with me, and hopefully if you're willing to provide that data to us, we will test importing it for you into your account, and then have you take a look at it and let us know if it looks like it's right, if we're interpreting the data right. And I will give my email address at the end of the presentation here today, so you can send me information, but it's a very simple email address. I am just jeff@climate.com, and please let me know if you have gridded soil sample data in one of those systems and would be willing to let us try and upload it into your account for you so that we can confirm if it is in fact loading correctly and the data looks correct to you. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and do a data inbox upload demonstration. So I'm going to switch over and share my web browser, because when we're talking about data inbox, and you should see my web browser here in just a minute, but when we're talking about data inbox, importing of data currently has to be done on a web browser. So you can't log into the Climate FieldView app or the Climate Cab app and upload data there. You're going to be doing all your data inbox, all your uploading of old data in a web browser and probably at a computer, because that's probably where you can get the data most easily. It's probably on a thumb drive somewhere, and so you probably need a computer that has a USB port to plug that thumb drive into so you can upload it into your computer and then move it to Climate. So in this case, what I've done is I have created a brand new Climate account. There's absolutely nothing in it, and I'm going to start from scratch with importing information. Now, you may be further along. You may already have all your field boundaries in the system. You may have all your field boundaries and your 2017 data in the system, and now you're just trying to import 2016, 15, 14, and those older years. But whatever the case may be, you have to log into a web browser at www.climate.com, and we always prefer that you use Google Chrome. Google Chrome is a far more effective browser at especially some of the mapping details that we're going to be looking at here. Internet Explorer and especially, and sometimes, and Safari and Firefox don't handle those mapping applications quite as well, and we do see problems sometimes with the system not responding appropriately. So I would always recommend download Google Chrome as a browser on your computer and use that whenever you are accessing www.climate.com and going online to our web version of our system. So that said, I am in Climate on Google Chrome, and what I want to do is import data. So where I go, it's fairly, I guess, self-explanatory, is there's an import button at the top of the screen on the left-hand side. And if I click import, it's going to take me to my data inbox. And there's a number of things that appear on this page that are going to help you move your data into the system and make sure that you have all the information that you need. Now, one of the things that we can look at here is it says upload your zip files. So that's the first thing to be aware of. Any data that you're going to import into Climate has to be zipped. So you might take a thumb drive that has all your data from your John Deere planter, or you take a thumb drive that has all your data from your Case combine or your New Holland combine or whatever it is. That thumb drive is going to contain a folder on it. Like if it's a Case combine, it's going to be a CN1 folder. What you want to do is you want to zip that entire folder before you import it to Climate. Now the nice thing is our system, it knows what to do with planting data, harvest data, and boundary data. But those folders usually contain a whole lot of other information, from machine settings to, all kinds of other things are in there. You do not have to be the data person where you open up the folder that you take out of your monitor and search for the planting files and search for the harvest files and just segregate those out and then zip them up and upload them to Climate. You can zip the entire folder as is, as it comes out of the monitor, and upload that to Climate. And what our system will do is it will find the pieces that it knows what to do with and import them, and it'll ignore all those machine settings and things that are irrelevant for the system and just not do anything with those. So it's really simple. Just zip up the entire folder, the entire drive that you get out of whatever implement you are bringing data in from, and our system will do the data segregation and identification to find the pieces that it knows what to do with. And if you need to know how to zip a file, there's a little document here that says how to zip your files. And if you click on that, it will take you to a little document that shows you exactly the steps you need to take, whether you are on a PC or a Mac, to create a zip file. So we're going to give you every step of information every bit of information along the way to make sure you know how to do these things. Now, the other really, really useful resource that's on this page is this Check Your File Compatibility resource. So if you are moving data out of IntelliView 2 monitor, or if you're moving data out of an Ag Leader Integra monitor, or you're moving data out of Pro 700, click this Check Your File Compatibility, and it's going to take you to a document on our help site that says, here's all the different monitors and FMIS systems that we support. And depending on where you are moving your data from, like if I am moving my data out of an Ag Leader Insight, well, if I click on this PDF guide, it's going to give me a couple pages that show me every step of the way of what I need to do to get the data not only into our system, but also out of the Ag Leader system. So as you can see here, it says, okay, step 1, export your data from your Ag Leader Insight cab monitor. Power on the monitor in the cab. Make sure you have a data card inserted. On the home screen, select copy to card. So this is every step along the way of how you need to not only get it into our system, but also get it out of the existing system. And these documents are super helpful. So what I would recommend is before you data inbox things, go to this page, click this Check Your File Compatibility link, and print out the little 2-pagers on whatever system it is you're going to be moving data from. Take that to the tractor with you if necessary so that you have the guide there with you. You push all the right buttons and you get the data exported in the correct format. And then from there, it should be very simple to bring it back to your computer and finish the import into our system. So definitely take a look there and print out the appropriate reference docs for whichever system you are moving data from. Okay, that said, I think I've covered most of the rules. Data has to be zipped. Take a look at the file that tells you exactly how to move the data out of whatever system it is you're moving data from. I think the last one I want to mention is a lot of times, or the one thing that you can't do is you can't import soil data before you have field boundaries. You can import harvest data or planting data before boundaries, or you can import them all at the same time. All that works fine. The only rule is if you have soil data, don't import that until you have field boundaries in the system, or our system won't quite know where to put it. So always wait to do gridded soil sample data last if you have boundaries and other things as well. Okay, so that said, let me go ahead and click this Upload File button. So I'm going to click Upload File. It's going to browse my computer and look for files. And as you can see, the only thing it allows me to upload are these zip files, although for some reason it also would allow me to upload my, my PowerPoint presentation. But anyway, the zip files are the ones that are the correct format for importing. And you can see I have a bunch of data here waiting for a field called Jefferson Center. And some of it is I've got yield data for 2013, 14, 15, 16, all in one zip file here. I have planting data for 16, planting data for 15. I've got my soil sample data. I've got my boundary files. I've got my 2012 yield. So in this case, I've got a number of different files. In a lot of cases, what you'll have is just a single folder that has, you know, all your planting and harvest data for you know, maybe several years, and boundaries for, you know, 50 files, or 50 fields, all in one file. That is fine. My data happens to be split up a bit here, but it doesn't really matter. You can have a whole bunch of data mixed in one zip file. You can have separate zip files. Whatever you have, it will work. It'll be fine, and our system will know what to do with it. So I'm going to go ahead and import my boundaries first, so because my data is split up. So I clicked on the boundary zip file. I click on Open. The system says, okay, well, let's load this file. It's going to take just a couple of minutes here, or probably a couple of seconds, because this is only one field. And it says your data has been successfully processed. I'm going to dismiss this bar at the top of the screen, and it's going to tell me a little bit about my data. So what I'm seeing right here is the data hasn't been imported to my system yet. Basically, when we do data inbox, we say, we want to make sure that you have a chance to review that data before you import it to the system. Because maybe you're a custom planter or a custom harvester and only some of the data is yours and a lot of the data belongs to someone else. And you don't want that other person's data clogging up your climate account. Well, you have a chance always to review the data here in this sort of quarantine area and decide which files you truly want to import to your account and only bring those files in. So here's my quarantine area. I can see that, hey, here's the shape of the boundary file that I tried to import. It's the field name on the file is called Jefferson Center. I could choose a client and a farm. It's going to tell me it's 52 acres. It came in from upload. What is the system going to do? It's going to import and create a new boundary because there is nothing in that area, and it's going to call it Jefferson Center. This all looks right to me, so I'm going to check this box in the upper left-hand corner to select everything there, and I'm going to click Import on the bottom of the screen, and it'll bring the data in. Shouldn't take it, since again, this is just one field boundary, it doesn't take very long. It'll be done pretty quickly. I can now hit Dismiss, and if I close Data Inbox and I go back to my main screen, I can now see that I have one field in my account. Now, this would also work if I had 100 fields or 1,000 fields. It is very, very quick to import boundaries from some third-party software system into Climate and immediately have a full setup of every field location ready to go that farmer can access on his phone, on his iPad, or wherever he is in the world. So importing field boundaries especially is super fast because they're small files. Field boundary files don't have a lot of data associated with them, and it goes super quick. So that's how that looks. Now I'm going to go back over to import, and I'm going to import some other things. So I'm going to click this Upload File button, and I'm going to say, okay, now that I've got a field boundary in there, you know what, let me import my recent soil sample data. So I've got 2014 soil sample data here, and I'm going to hit Open, and it's going to prepare my upload. This file is a little bit larger. It's going to take probably maybe a minute or so to process because it's not just a boundary, but it went pretty quickly from an upload perspective. Now it's go ahead and processing. And shortly here, it's going to return to me, again, it's going to stick the data in this quarantine area where I can view it. I can decide if it looks like it's the right stuff, what I thought it was in that file, and then I can make a decision on whether or not I truly want to import it to my, my Climate account. So we'll give this a second. Again, it's just one field, so it should go pretty quickly, but again, I am on a hotel internet here. Now, one thing to notice here, so I imported that, and you can see it took me back to this page that says, hey, upload your zip files. It's not showing me the data. Why? Well, we have different folders, essentially, where the data goes. This was soil data, so it went in the soil test section. So in order to see and approve that data, I have to click on soil test at the top of the screen. Now I can see it. It shows me the shape of the data. It shows me the sample date. It shows me that, hey, this has a field intersection of Jefferson Center, so that's where we're going to put the soil data. It's going to go into the Jefferson Center field. I know that that's correct in this case. It also says that I have an invalid or missing test lab. I need to choose a test lab that this came from, and I can either choose other if it's not one of the ones on the list. We have a bunch of the major test labs here just so we can keep a record of where that data came from for you. And I say, hey, it came from GMS Labs or whatever the case might be. I like this data. I click Import All. I check the box and I click Import, and it's going to go ahead and pretty quickly here import that data. And as you can see at the top of the screen, it says your soil data should be ready for you to view in around 30 minutes. So it may take a little bit for some of these other files to get imported to your system, and it may take 10, 15 minutes for them to actually show up where you can see them in your app. The boundaries go quick. Some of the other files have a lot more data associated with them, and it takes just a minute for it to show up in your system where you can view it. Okay, I'm going to hit Upload File again. I'm going to do some other stuff, like let's take in my my planting data from 2016, and I hit Open, and it's going to go ahead and upload this zip file. Now, this particular field was planted with a 2020 from Precision Planting, so there's a few different data layers in here. There's my things like, obviously, hybrid, there's population, there's planting date, there's machine speed, there's singulation, there's downforce, there's spacing. So there's up to 10, potentially 10 or more different variables that could be imported with every planting file. So these do tend to be larger, especially if you're using things like a 2020 from Precision Planting. And so these files do take a little bit longer to load, and if you are loading 50 fields worth of planting data for 5 years, this processing might take up to 15 minutes. But in general, it still should go pretty quickly, and so we'll just give it a second to process here, and then I'll show you what this one looks like. These planting and harvesting files are a little bit different in that you're going to see multiple files per field in most cases. And that just has to do with the way that the different monitors that are in existence and are used out in the field, the way that they break down data. They basically, as you're going through the field and as you're planting or as you're harvesting, they don't always put all that data into a single large file. They will break down that data into segments. They'll say, okay, well, this is a fairly large field, and I'm collecting a lot of data, so I'm gonna collect planting data for the first whatever it is, 30 minutes that I'm planting in this field, and I'm gonna switch to a second file, and I'm gonna just stick all these files together at the end so it looks like a single map. But in fact, it is composed of a number of different segments of data. And that's what you're going to see here in a second if this file processing will complete, and it looks like it has. So I'll hit dismiss here. And again, where do I go to see my planting data and approve it? Well, it's in the planting tab. So I click on planting, and here you can see the information about that I just brought in. So in fact, it broke this data down into 22 different files, even though it's all one field and all 2016 planting data. So you can see a little bit of the data came in this shape, and then some more came in this shape, and more came in this shape. Part of the reason for this is that this is a field where we had, the farmer had run a hybrid trial, and so he had a whole bunch of different hybrids placed in strips in this field, and so it's kind of coming in a different looking way. Don't worry about that. As long as the data is the right year, you can check the year, you can check the field assignment that it's going to go into Jefferson Center Field, it knows where to put it. You can see that the client and farm makes sense. You can see the hybrid that was associated with that particular part of the field. If the hybrid is wrong, we have recently added this functionality where you can say, you know what, in that part of the field, I had, fat fingered the hybrid name, and that's not really the right name. I want to go ahead and change it from 42 V843 to, DKC, whatever it is. You can go ahead and override as you're bringing the data in to correct hybrid names if they were not captured correctly in the planter as you were going through the field. So that is some new functionality that we've just recently launched. But assuming I like all this data, I just check the box and I hit import, and it takes just a couple of minutes and that data will show up. Now, one more thing I want to touch on. So I've imported planting data, I've imported soil data, I could import harvest data, I could go through the list, I could import it all in one file or in many different files as I've done here. One of the things that you often want to do is you want to start looking at that data immediately. And it does take maybe, up to 30 minutes for a lot of these maps to actually show up in the system. The other thing to know is that there is no place for me to very easily view this data in our web application today. So I import this planting data, or I import harvest data, or I import soil data. There's not a real easy way to look at it in our web application. The place that we really mean for people to look at it and consume it is on their mobile apps, so that they can, as they are in the field, pull those maps up and have that context for what they're seeing. So once you're done importing, when you want to see the data, don't look for it here at climate.com. Pull out your phone, pull out your iPad, launch the Climate app, and look at it as I showed you in that demonstration of this field about what you see when you have all your data layers in one place. Go to fields, click on the different layers, and that's where you're going to actually start looking at the maps and being able to view them and confirm that all your imports worked the way you intended them to do. Okay, I have one last thing I want to talk about. So if I go back over to data inbox, and this is a really important one because a lot of guys obviously use green equipment and a lot of guys have access to the My John Deere system. So this link at the bottom of the page, do you have data on a My John Deere account? If someone has data on a My John Deere account, they don't need to use data inbox. They can just automatically flow all their data over into Climate by connecting their My John Deere account with their Climate account. So if I click this Connect an Account button, it's going to take me over to information about my account, and there's this Connected Accounts where it says My John Deere is not connected. If I click the Connect link, it's going to take me to my John Deere login. So it takes me to the My John Deere page. I don't have a My John Deere account to connect to at the moment, but if I put in my username and my password and I hit sign in, what's going to happen is it's going to link that My John Deere account with my Climate account. And we then will pull every 15 minutes or so from My John Deere to pull any data that we see there. So the first time you connect, it's going to go to the system. It's going to grab all your historical data, all your boundaries, all your planting files, all your harvest files. They're all just going to move immediately and without you doing anything into your Climate account. So that will be a super easy way to get people set up who have My John Deere. And then going forward, if you are planting in the field or you're harvesting in the field and you're not using our Climate FieldView drive to collect data live, as that data hits My John Deere, it will also get transferred over to Climate. So that's a really useful and easy way to get data into the system. The one thing to know about it is it works the same as as everything else that you load into via Data Inbox. As the data gets pulled over from My John Deere, it's not going to show up automatically in your Climate account. It's going to show up here on the Data Inbox page in this quarantine section. And so what you will need to do is go to climate.com, go over to the Data Inbox page, as I am here now, and look at this page and say, okay, here's the files that were pulled over from My John Deere. Which ones do I want to actually have show up in my Climate account? Check the checkboxes next to those and pull those data files over. Okay, so I think that covers most of Data Inbox functionality that I wanted to cover today. Let me just close this and switch back to the presentation. So, okay. And again, any questions, go ahead and type them in because I am about to be wrapped up here. So one thing to be aware of, as you're importing data, sometimes you'll get warning signs. You'll get these little yellow bars above the data as you're trying to import it. And what that means is that the data that you're importing spatially, basically where it lays geographically in the world, overlaps with more than one of your field boundaries. And this happens a lot when you have fields that are right next to each other. So what we do is we say, hey, the data that you're importing, it actually overlaps 99% with the home field and 1% with the west field. Our system will automatically assign it to the home field because it assumes that that's where you want the data to go. But you'll see these yellow boundaries anytime that there is a little bit of a conflict and the data that you're importing covers more than one field, at least part of more than one field. And so if you see these yellow warnings, you don't need to worry about them too much, but just check and make sure that we are putting the data to the right field. There will be some information on the page there to help you understand which fields are overlapped, by how much, and allow you to choose which one you want it to go to. And if you have any questions about that as you're importing data, you can always call our support team and they will be able to help talk you through that. So that is it. In terms of what's next, we're here in winter. It's pretty cold in most parts of the country and there's not a lot going on in the field. So take this time to find and zip your historical data files from whatever system they are and move them into Climate via the Data Inbox. If you have questions, I don't know how many of you have called our support team before, but we have a fantastic support team. They are live people here in the United States. Most of them farm themselves or have farmed in the past, and you can reach them at 888-924-7475. You will get a live English-speaking person on the phone that can help you very quickly, and so I would highly recommend calling them. If you have any questions as you're importing data or questions about how to import data, they'll be able to walk you through the process. I also mentioned I would give my email address. I happen to be one of the very first of Climate employees back from the time when we thought we didn't need last names in our email addresses because there were only a few of us in the company. So I have a very easy email address of jeff@climate.com. And if you have any of that data, let me just go back a bit to that screen that I was showing earlier. If you have gridded soil sample data in any of these systems, we would love to help you import it to Climate and then actually get your help in confirming that it is looking correct. So please send me an email to jeff@climate.com if you have gridded soil sample data in one of those systems. Then we will import that data for you and then work with you to make sure it's looking correct so that we can go ahead and launch commercial support of those systems.